Hello, everybody, and welcome to the James Murua Literary Podcast. I'm your host, James Murua, and this is a series of discussions brought to you in partnership with Frankfurter Buchmesse with funding from the German federal government. I am really excited today because I've got some very interesting guests. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the guests to introduce themselves and what they do, which is what I like doing, just so we get to hear their voices. I'll start with the guy who's closest to me here, and that's Philipp Khabo Koepsell. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi there. Hi, yes, I'm Philipp. I'm a spoken word performer based in Berlin, Germany. Well, I'm a spoken word performer, dramaturg in theater, and I edited and published a few anthologies of poetry and other books. Yes, and I work. I'm a project manager at Each One Teach One, which is among other things, an Afro-diasporic library in Berlin. And we are based on donations when it comes to the books that we have. Currently, we have like 7,000 books of African diasporic authors, which is pretty unique in Germany, if you could imagine. So yeah, I'm here, I guess, to talk about what it's like to publish books as an African or African diasporic person in Europe and Germany in particular. And yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you, Philipp. Ondjaki, tell us who you are.
Hello, my name is Ondjaki. I'm not in Berlin and I'm not in Nairobi. I'm in Luanda. Not in Rwanda. Sometimes people get it as Rwanda. I'm in Luanda, the Angolan capital. I'm a writer. I was about to say I write other things, but what I really like to write, it's short stories and books for children. Also just opened with some friends a bookstore here in Luanda. Our main goal is to have, of course, books from everywhere, but mainly bringing books from other African countries and authors here to Angola in any language. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ondjaki. So because we're coming towards the end of the year, I just wanted to know, how was 2020 for you, both of you? Maybe you can start with Ondjaki now. I mean, it's been a crazy year. So how has the year been for you?
It's been a crazy year. Well, it's. I mean, sometimes you have to separate in personal terms. If you know you have, I still had some work to do. I still had some books to finish. I've published 2 books this year, one novel and 1 book for children. I mean, it was ready from before. So in a personal basis, I think if you have a home and if you can stay at home during COVID time, I'm very fortunate to actually, I think I'm privileged to be at home, and be able to be working from home. In a global social perspective here in Angola, it has been a complicated year, not only because of COVID. Also, we've been having some, street manifestations, and the government has not been dealing very well with it, especially during last October and this month. So I'm kind of worried because, in a way, COVID and the limitations for circulation, the police behavior, it's very easy to make an excuse and, give more power than necessary to the police. I'm not against the rules or the law, and we have special laws now. I am against the way the police usually treats people who are in a manif, or they're trying to. It's not easy. It's not an easy year for everyone. Angola is in a very dramatic economical crisis. So, it's all together. And I think the politicians and the police, they have to understand when people go out to the streets and they are not happy at all. So, yeah, it's mixed feelings here, you know, not on a personal basis, but, you know, in general, it's not a good situation right now.
Okay, what about yourself, Philipp?
Yeah, it seems police brutality is among the other big thing, sort of like the theme of 2020. Yeah, I mean, even the summer months were intense here with different demonstrations, different grassroots initiatives that really focused on the Black Lives Matter movement, which is pretty prominent here. It has been over the last couple of years, but I mean, this year changed. Sure, everything became really dramatic to a point, but at the same time, it has shown some light on the topic itself, and a lot of institutions really, in a way, profited from it. You know, but also in a positive way. That sort of like the George Floyd situation brought light to the problem, and for different, let's say, NGOs or even privateers who had money to give to a good cause, it finally arrived with the right NGOs. So that's a nice thing. But other than that, the COVID situation messed up this year completely. This was supposed to be my sabbatical. Really, this is my sabbatical. I'm enjoying life right now. I was supposed to be writing poetry in Namibia. That was my idea. I wanted to sit somewhere between Windhoek and then Walvis Bay, writing poetry on whatnot. It did not go that way.
Oh, man.
But it's fine. It's fine. Like seriously, it was a very special experience, which I had not had before. The entire lockdown situation became comical to a point. I have all sorts of workout material here drilled into the wall, and I have kettlebells here, so I don't have to go to the gym. I can do that here. I in a way, it was enjoyable to a point. Say hi to this is my daughter Naima.
Hi, Naima.
Hi.
We have a visit.
Yes.
How are you?
So, as we worry about it, I think Boss Baby has been abandoned.
Yeah.
Ondjaki, maybe we can come to you now. I mentioned to you earlier that I would like to know a bit about the part of the world of Africa we call Lusophone Africa, which is the Portuguese-speaking part of Africa. And I would like to know a little bit about it because I don't know much about it. So maybe you can just talk about Angola, but if it's possible to talk about the general area, you know, of Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde.
Yeah.
How is the scene? You know, do you have events? Do you have events?
In terms of books or in general?
Yeah. How is the scene? You know, do you have a lot of books being launched? Do you have a infrastructure for publishing?
Mm-hmm. You know, this is one of the things. I mean, I think it's starting more and more to happen, especially in this group. You know, the group of Afrolit Sans Frontières. We've been trying to make that connection with not only other languages but also bringing other geographies. You know, usually you have the northern part of Africa, the central Africa, you know, the eastern and the southern part, but we don't communicate. It's not that we don't communicate. I think we don't communicate as much as we should in terms of cooperation. So it's starting to happen, and it's very good. Even through this group of people, the Afrolit Sans Frontières, I've been trying to do more and more, you know, reaching Namibia or Zambia, and you know.
I hope you don't mind me interrupting you. What is Afrolit Sans Frontières? Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I would like to tell you exactly what it is. I don't know exactly what it is. It's a group of people, of authors, of friends, lovely people, very committed, not only with the books, but also with cultural and, of course, political sometimes aspects. You know, it's a group of people that has been working. You know, they did a festival, and for some people who know, Zukishwa has been organizing this sort of it's like a small planet. We call it Afrolit. It's Afrolit sans frontières, without borders, for those. And it's a shame that she didn't put any word in Portuguese. So I'm thinking the sans should be sem, in Portuguese. So it'd be Afrolit sans frontières, and that would be the. But what is interesting, in late October, they have a web page, the Afrolit, they have a Twitter account, and it's a movement. They did this beautiful Afrolit, I don't know, number 4 or number 7. It's sort of a compact festival with other languages, not the French, English, and Portuguese languages. No, so it was beautiful, beautiful things. Like Philipp said, many things are happening because of this. Because of COVID. Specifically, that you asked about the Portuguese language. We are 5 countries in the continent that actually still have Portuguese as an official language. And those are in the southern part, Angola and Mozambique. Then you go up a little bit, you have São Tomé e Príncipe, St. Thomas and Prince. It's a country made out of 2 islands, São Tomé and Príncipe. Then you have Guinea-Bissau, the other Guineas. This is Guinea-Bissau. And then you have Cabo Verde or Cape Verde, which is the islands that, stay up there close, almost north, close to Senegal. It's very interesting. And in a way, out of this colonial history, what we got is that, I communicate, and we Angolans communicate more to people from Mozambique or Cape Verde, although they are not, here, than we do with the Congos or with Namibia. So it's very strong, this bond created by the language. And if you ask me, also with Portugal, yes, in a way with Portugal as well, and Brazil, who also speaks Portuguese, and East Timor. But among us, it's interesting now that I think of it. I know everything that's going on in Mozambique and in Cape Verde, and in Namibia, I gotta ask Remy what's going on in Namibia. So this is, it's a strange feeling. But in terms of books, Angola, Mozambique, and Cape Verde, those are countries who are publishing a lot. Regular publishing movement. Guinea-Bissau and São Tomé a little bit less. We also want to do a new festival among all those countries, including the small ones that are not into these corridors. That's what
would you mind telling?
Picture.
Yeah. Okay, Philipp.
Yes, thank you. How's the local literature scene in Angola?
The local?
Yeah, how's the local literature scene? Do you think it's like a strong emerging scene, or is it more like a sort of like dwindling along movement?
Okay. The sound failed exactly in that word. I got it everything, but I don't know what were we talking about. Sorry.
The literature scene in general, because you said Portuguese is such a strong combining element, as language as a strong combining element. Do you feel it's being fueled by the other Portuguese-speaking countries? And is it a strong scene as in general? I'm just truly interested.
Yeah. It's basically everything happens in terms of literature. Everything happens in Portuguese, although Angola has other 13 languages and I don't know how many dialects. So basically, and it's something that we talk about a lot. Why do people only or mainly write in Portuguese? It's because I think most of the people will only read you if you write and publish in Portuguese. So you gotta do both. Of course, you won't have people reading in Kimbundo or in Umbundo or Chokwe if you don't publish in those languages. But if it's hard to publish in Portuguese, can you imagine how hard it would be to put out a book in one of the other national languages? Portuguese is considered to be one of the national languages. But because you mentioned the scene as in Angola specifically, something that has been growing a lot in the past, I would say 10 years now. It's the slam poetry, and a strong movement of very young people doing spoken word and slam poetry, and a female movement inside that movement, the female movement of slammers, and it's amazing. They're very good, both here and in Mozambique. They do these contests, international contests, but within the Portuguese language, and they go to Brazil or they do it from here. That's growing a lot, and the music as well. Literature, it kind of depends a lot.
So good. Thank you, Ondjaki. Maybe now we can start with you, Philipp. You talked about the Black Lives Matter movement has really brought a focus on the Black community in Germany, and I'll tell you, when I was doing my research, I don't really know many Afro-German or Black German writers. Would you like to tell us a bit about the Afro-German scene as it is right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in this case, we're talking the Afro-German literature scene.
Yes.
And the reason you don't know so many writers is because there are not so many writers. But I have to admit, there are also structural reasons for that. I mean, there are reasons really sort of like hindering you of surpassing a certain threshold, I would say. One writer you may know is, or probably more as a Nigerian British writer by now, is Olumide Poboola.
Yes, I know her.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. She grew up in Berlin. And I remember from times when we shared the stage together. But she chose a very specific way to sort of like surpass that threshold, which was to A, write in English, and B, live in England, which makes it different. And it kind of opens you up to the international market. For other writers here who are publishing in German and in a German context, it's a bit more complicated. I mean, first of all, it is publishing here as an African diasporic person is a strategic endeavor. So you have to think about what is it that you're writing about? How are you going about this? Is being African or Black, or however you define it, is that part of your identity? And do you want that to be part of the do you want this identity to be shown in the book? Do you want other people of color and African diasporic people to be able to identify with that? And you would think that, okay, that sounds very political, but if you think about it, it already starts with your protagonist. I mean, sure, as James Murua, you could write a novel about, let's say, Ian, the young, freckled, red-haired guy from Chichester, in somewhere in England. But you probably won't, because you want kind of like your people to identify with your protagonist. So if you choose that as a person of African descent in Germany, that is already a strategic decision. And that already means you are facing certain problems. You're facing the problem that the publishing world may not think there's an audience for that. Mind you, you are publishing in German. That means they see German readers as the audience for that. And then we are talking about the entire idea of like, how do you perceive a nation? Do you perceive a nation as multicultural and mixed, or do you perceive a nation as predominantly white, blonde, and Christian? And here it is, currently there's a change, but you will still find a lot of publishing houses that say, you know what, that's a nice story that you have, but we don't have an audience for that. Because our audience that's the thing, they don't think of an audience as possibly being of color, as possibly being Black and of color and whatnot. German publishing houses, most of the times, and over the last 20, 30 years, have always thought of themselves as like publishing to a white audience, the white German-speaking audience, of course. So if you choose your protagonist to be a Black girl, Black boy running around somewhere here in Berlin, that is already a strategic choice, might make things more difficult. Now, it has changed. It has changed in the last couple of years, predominantly through Sharon Dodua-Otu. She won the prestigious Bachmann Prize, which is pretty much like the literature prize itself. There is no other. No, she's a Ghanaian British lady, migrated to Berlin roughly 15 years ago. She's writing in English and German. Her German is perfect. And yeah, she won this Bachmann Prize. And ever since then, they kind of opened up to the possibility that that a dark-skinned African lady could be, number one, first of all, writing this, and that there could be an audience who wants to read this perspective. And this is quite difficult. I mean, sure, you have other Afro-German writers who, just for the sake of making it a job, making it a living, choose to make their protagonists and the entire story, let them play in a completely mainstream white surrounding. That includes your protagonist, everything, and it does sell.
I have to tell you, like, I had a guest last week who actually painted a pretty rosy picture of the German publishing scene. And, talking about the opportunities for writers, they can get, if the book comes out, they can get opportunities to, show the book, the opportunities if you want to translate. Are you saying that the opportunities are not there for English German? Or
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to be very strategic about how you want to. If you want these opportunities, then you have to make sure that you don't that you stay mainstream enough for that. Yeah, I mean, okay, fine. First of all, it is still Germany, which means it's the opportunities you have here are humongous. Really, seriously. I mean, as far as like all the social service and security goes, you are covered. Like you can be an unemployed writer, and you can write for like you still be able to pay your rent, for the next 2 years. Don't worry about that. So that security safety net is pretty strong here in general, but still. If you choose, I mean, I've talked to writers. A good friend of mine, she was writing youth novels. She was told, I mean, she is Afro-German, Cameroonian German. She was told that her protagonist please have a German name, because with that African name that the young 10-year-old protagonist had, they feared that the audience wouldn't be able to relate, and they asked people that. They asked, like, can you change your name?
But that's so strange. Don't you find it strange, Philipp?
Yeah, I find it strange, and yet I completely understand where that.
Why wouldn't they read a character with that name as much as we could read somebody's Thomas Mann's character with any name? Why,
There's the idea that for a large part of the population, like, still believes Germany is like monolithically white and Christian, which is not the case. Of course not. But since publishing is a business, they don't want to take any risks. So what that means, you kind of have to deal with the publishing houses that are willing to take that risk. And there are some. And when I mean some, I can really, like, I can count them. I can name them right here. There are not so many. But yeah, sure. You have the possibility to publish. You have the opportunity for that. You can go to Frankfurter Buchmesse when you do that. It's just a question of like how big that publishing house is. I mean, like Sharon, for instance, she really broke through there. There's another one, Olivia Wenzel. She just published an absolutely great novel, Tausend Serpentinen Angst, published in German. But even there, you have to say, like, she was winning prizes and awards left and right, coming from drama mostly. So as if I could give an advice to a young person of color trying to publish in Germany here, I'd say try to stay as close to the mainstream publishing scene as possible. Like, establish yourself as a writer's writer, not as an activist writer, not as a black something, but like really like hit all the most boring mainstream writing competitions that you can find, so that the mainstream will see you as mainstream writer, not with all the identity politics, but no, like, sure.
So basically you're telling me, if I'm a writer of color, I leave away all that makes me unique and go with what is everybody else's. Wow, okay.
You make it a Trojan horse. You make it a Trojan horse. No, be smart about it. You have to be strategic about it. You make it a Trojan. You write your mainstream stories and make it the most mainstream thing ever, and you just haphazardly mention that your protagonist is half Cameroonian and has this and this backstory, and then you work your way through.
Okay.
No, I mean, really, you have to like.
Okay. Let's. I mean, I want us to think about that for a second. Ondjaki, what?
Onto the aeroplane. So yeah, do that.
Ondjaki, do you have any thoughts on this? As we,
Yes, I'm amazed, but I mean, I've been there, but I have not lived or worked in Germany. Actually, there is something quite interesting. I put this in a sort of biography in a meeting. The only time in my life that I remember that I was detained was in Germany, in the Frankfurt airport, because they didn't see very well the stamps. So I was coming from Macau via Frankfurt, Lisbon, Luanda. And then he said, you can't be here. It said, yes, I can. I'll be here in Lisbon and then Luanda. No, but too many stamps, too many days, and they took me to a room inside the airport. Very, very young guy, younger than me, very nice guy. And then I just realized I was arrested when I tried to open the door, and it was a glass door with nothing to open from the inside. And he laughed at me and said, that door doesn't open, but laughing. And it was 6 a.m. in the morning. No, but that's another story. No, what I find, what I would find strange if I would meet a writer or from Japan or from Mongolia or from Argentina, and he would never write about Japan or Argentina, or he would have people from Japan with German names. I would ask him, why do the people in your book have German names if they are from Japan? So the same way, I don't think if you are from Cameroon or German Cameroon or German Nigerian, you have only to write about your home place. I don't think that. I think it's a matter of whatever you want. You want, not the publisher and not the public, That's so strange. Yeah. I really thought, sometimes I still do, that it would be even, that kind of, for me, negative European exotic thing when they look out the books and they ask you, so is this really an African book? And it's the opposite. Sometimes it's the opposite. If you don't have certain elements from the so-called African typical literature, then you're not writing, you know, but that's dangerous as well, because it goes to a specific shelf or a specific series, you know. But no, I think it's very, once I got this thing about a publisher in Italy who said they wouldn't publish a novel. The novel was good. They said the novel was good, mine, but they wouldn't publish because the Italian public would not understand some details, you know, about Luanda and Angola and the independence. And I said, how come I read books from Russia, from the 18th century, from the 15th, and from other countries, and you know, so it's very hard for me to understand that.
I want to know
I think the strategic part, I understood what Philip was trying to say, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've lived in Brazil and Angola, and you know, there's that community of the languages. How is it? How is it as somebody who's Angolan writing in Brazil? You know, you're African writing in the Americas. How is it for you? How is that experience?
There are differences. I mean, in terms of language, of course, I hear somebody talking and I can immediately say if he's from Brazil or from Portugal. Sometimes people from Mozambique are very similar from people in terms of accent from Angola because they imitate us. That's the only reason.
Not the other way.
James, what's the national sport in Mozambique? Do you know the national?
Capoeira?
Some people think it's soccer or basketball or capoeira. No, in Mozambique, the national sport is something called imitate the Angolans. That's what they all like to play. No, it's true. The way we write, the way we talk, that's another thing. So when I was in Brazil, yeah, sometimes they tried, even publishers, they asked me to change one or two things. And this is me. I said no, and I told them, sorry, I'm going to say no because I didn't change my Portuguese language when I published in Portugal. So I won't change here in Brazil, and I probably won't change anywhere. Same happens when Brazilians or us publish in Portugal. Sometimes, you know, editing goes a bit too far. I mean, I think editing is okay, and you can also have a nice conversation with your editor. That's one thing. Changing the whole thing, for example, the way the Brazilians were asking me, it would change a word so the Brazilian kids would understand better, but it would take any reference to Angola. And I asked them, why are you publishing an author from Angola, which is me? Why? I know, because the story is so. Why are you changing the story? They'll go find a Brazilian author who writes with the words, you know, the kids know. I think it's more interesting for the kid to say, I don't understand this. Why did he write that? And the teacher or the parents would explain, oh, this guy's from Angola. He speaks Portuguese, you know. I think it's always more interesting than just, you know, making everything flat but it's not a great complication. Usually it's something nice, you know. In Portugal, if you write the way we write, for them, it's interesting. For Brazilian, it's interesting. It's exotic and interesting. For us, it's just regular. I don't think it's exotic, I think. That's it.
Yeah, but I can understand that. I mean, there's always like this sort of like exotic element, which is like the precious one in it, you know. But I mean, it's a simple one when it comes to I guess dialect and language. And I think that one is still completely fine. I mean, here, for instance, the exotic element. Okay, let's say like books that they would easily publish from an African perspective in the German book market would be sort of like the tragic fate of the immigrant, you know, or of the, I don't know, adopted child of something, you know. I mean, stories that are worth being told, however, have been overly told in the past, and they created sort of like a box for it, sort of like the immigrant, the African immigrant, the Mediterranean, you know, traveler box, Sure, the tragic child, the tragic. Oh, of course, the tragic but now emancipated woman from the from Eastern Africa somewhere, who came here as a sort of like slave for the, you know the stories already, and they still sell, unfortunately. I mean, unfortunately, in a way of, yeah, they are reality, but at the same time, it is a selling box. You sell numbers for that. If somebody comes around and says like, no, I was born here, I had a regular life, I just have different stories to tell, or maybe I'm an Afrofuturist, so I want the most craziest Afro zombie story with the magical powers of like the second moon off coming into, and then mutating into something. And they go like, what the hell is that? We don't have an audience for that.
So you can't have a Nedi or Carrefour for the German side space.
Not yet. I mean, give it 5 years or maybe 10. Listen, give it 5 years for Britain, give it 10 years for Germany.
Ondjaki, you wanna
something, James? Yeah,
yes.
I wanted to ask Philip, what about the other stuff, not only the books? The way he said he does, you do slam.
Mm-hmm.
How is it? How do they feel it? How do they demand a specific content, or it's okay, you do whatever you want and they accept it? The public for that.
It's the slam poetry scene is a different one. I mean, it's huge here, as it is, I guess, everywhere, because you said it's booming in Angola. I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. Here, I mean, Germans are very they want to be perfect when it comes to a certain art form. So when they hear like, oh, there's a new thing, they call it slam poetry. All right, let's do this. And they sort of like adapt the things that they understand, and they discard the things which are not for them, which means at the end, they sort of like create a sort of like the Germanized version of things. So German slam poetry, for instance, is very much focused on humor. You could say it's pretty much like stand-up comedy. To the point where, I mean, I
you have
love
to be polite all the time. Can you talk about difficult things?
Hey, talk shit. You can talk trash. That's fine. That it works perfectly. But
not only trash. For example, racism. Can you address racism during a slam poetry?
Yes, we can, definitely. But mind you, it's slam poetry as itself is a competition. So you kind of have to win the audience, and you win the audience by their laughter. That's the thing. And I mean, there was one guy who won the national poetry slam, I think, by stories about his facial hair, about his beard. Was hilariously funny, super funny. However, you have to understand it is funny. It is not deep, and it is not well crafted. And that is the thing. The people that present deep and well crafted things that do not fall in the category of like hilariously funny, they might have a harder time here. I mean, it's like, for instance, I've seen the slam poets in Zim and in Zim and in South Africa. The amount of social commentary, the amount of like tragic but yet hopeful storytelling. I was in competition in slam. It just flattened me. I sat there. I was like, I don't care if I have to go. I just want to listen to this. It is amazing. Guys, you are the best that I've ever heard. Like, coming from Germany, from that kind of slam scene of like, look at my beard. It's funny. No, it's very different. It's very different. And yes, you have the possibility to sure, and it's not seldomly done. So pretty often you hear the different identity politics coming through in the slam poetry, but still, it's mostly it's bordering onto comedy. Yeah. Mhm. James, I can't hear you there.
James, your mic is off, maybe.
Sorry, guys,
Most
I had
probably.
muted myself. Yeah, there's a comment from Lucas Ofula here saying that I'm glad Ondjaki refuses to change his writing to fit the Brazilian way of thinking. An editor or publisher like a midwife should not claim to be the parent. Thanks for the comment, Lucas. Yes. Listen, we've been talking about craft and how to get your stuff to be molded to what it needs to be to get to the side where it is published. Do you want to talk a bit about distribution? I mean, Ondjaki, I know you've set up a publishing house and a bookstore. Please tell us a bit about what you're doing, the work you're doing.
We wanted to be like a tiny ecosystem, the bookstore and the publishing house, not only selling books, but also creating some sort of community around the books. For example, working and selling books, always trying to help, for example, one or more than one communitary libraries. There are several public communitary, I don't know if that's the correct word in English, but in Portuguese it's like that, biblioteca comunitária, like for the whole
community library.
Yeah.
Community.
And it's usually, for example, one of them just opened here, and it's under a road, under a huge road that looks like a bridge, and they did it in the public space under that bridge. They just started doing it and gathering books, and people came and offered them lots of books, and it's that's a very beautiful project that just came out of nothing, not out of nothing, sorry, out of those people who started doing it. By nothing, I meant it was not the government initiative, and there are others replicas in other spaces. So part of what we sell, we reserve one part of it, or books, or we seek for private investment to buy books from the bookstore, but we always include in those books for the libraries. That's one. In the publishing part, as I told you, we are trying to develop these sort of series that are only within the continent, to promote translation within the continent, to bring the other guys, and a specific series that I want to call something related with neighbors, because I really have this plan, like in 10 years or so, that we know who the young writers are from the two Congos, Zambia and Namibia. It's not possible that we are surrounded by 4 countries and we know nothing but their geography and names of the rivers. I don't think it's fair. I think I always I know young writers here who are starting, so I always think there is these young writers in Rwanda, in Nigeria, in Sudan. I always think the thing that I think is that I don't know them, but somebody does. So if I find a guy there in Sudan and I ask him, do you know who's doing nice poetry there? Probably 2, 3 or 5 or 100 names will show up. And this is what we really want to do. That and the audiobooks. We are preparing something big for the audiobooks.
Because I know you're from Angola, who are some of the writers I want to check out? Because you're the one who knows who are some of the young writers.
You want to check out the new ones, yeah, young writers and also young female writers. That's another thing. I sometimes I know that they have things and they keep it at home. So I'm also looking specifically for young female writers who would like or are writing for kids. That's something we really need. We have lots of poetry, some prose, and we do not have that much, not in number, but in number of writers and young writers. I'm really looking for young female, not only female, but young female writers as well for children books. But yeah, I can give you names. And I think next year we're gonna start as well a tiny literary contest, and I think a prize, tiny prize, but I think it's gonna be big here, because I remember when I had not published, the thing I really wanted, and I was sending books for the, for that kind of prizes, it was not the money. I wanted to be published, I mean, the money was okay, but what I really wanted is that the prize would, just publish the book. And that would, I think that helps a lot. If the prize has a name, it helps to start, and the big prizes, actually, they're after big names. Usually, if you see, sometimes the prizes need the big names. It's not the big names that need the prizes. So a prize for the people who are starting, the prize won't need names. We need people who are starting to print their books.
What is the name of your bookstore?
Kiela.
I mean, you have a Facebook page and everything.
With the stones.
Do you have a Facebook page or something that
sound is delayed?
Oh, sorry. Do you have a Facebook page or something?
We are.
In case somebody wants to check it out.
If you look for Kiela, Facebook, it's not that active, but Instagram, it's Kiela with a K. Kiela. Kiela. And then via Instagram, you will find the other, Twitter and Facebook.
So do I understand this correctly?
Kiela Livraria.
Yes. So do I understand this correctly? You have the writing competitions, right? For young kids?
We will have this prize for young for books for children.
It's coming.
Okay,
it's coming then next August.
You have then the publishing house who is capable of publishing these stories in this case, and then as the third thing to come, well, you have the bookstore that sells the books that you publish that you've commissioned as a writing competition. That is so good. That is so taking up all the steps.
If you want to send something, just send us. We can publish you as well. No matter the name of your characters, no matter that, forget about it. Do whatever you want.
You can craft some awesome stories. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, Philipp, let's talk about your library in Berlin. You mentioned it has, 7,000 texts of Afro-German, of Africans. I mean, how do you pick
literature? Yes,
of African. I mean, how do you come up with such a thing? How do you pick the writers? How do you pick the texts? How do you archive them?
Okay, I mean, the truth is, the largest batch of books was donated to us by an Afro-German activist who had been saving books since who has been researching and buying these books and creating her own library since the mid 1980s. So that's a large batch, and I mean, mid 1980s means there was no internet. So you had to go outside, and you have to go to the bookstores, and you have to go to the book fairs, to find these authors. And back then, when you think about African and African diasporic authors, you would think of what? Alice Walker, Chinua Achebe, Toni Morrison. And that's pretty much where it starts, and that's also where the publishing in Germany would have stopped. So that was an incredible job to find even more books back then in those times, and even today. I mean, book donations is still a strong part. I mean, you can imagine like how many copies of Things Fall Apart have assembled over the times. There is a lot. But still, and then we buy new books as well, of course, because we need to stay relevant, and especially the stuff that came out in the last I want to say 10 to 15 years, really in Kenya, and you do know it. Everything that has to do with like the Kwani publications, this entire initiative, this entire movement behind it, South Africa as well, Southern Africa in general. And there's so much new and relevant and mind-blowing stuff that needs to be there. But funding is always a question, you know. So we're always trying to find loopholes in the funding system so we can buy as many books as we possibly can, you know, for whatever project that we currently have. But yeah, and then there's the question of like, how do you, after you have bought the books, after you have like catalog the books and put them in the shelves, like how do you get people to read them? How do you get kids to read them if they haven't heard of it, you know? There's this one new book that just came out of Uganda, or just came out of Ethiopia, and like no one here heard about it. So that's pretty much the second part of it, is implementing a program, like a library program that makes sort of facilitates that, you know, that where we have a book club, for instance, where we have spoken word is like a creative writing class, and other things as well that sort of like help to bring literature to the people, pretty much. And mind you, it's not only this task of bringing literature to the people. We have only like also like a geographic distance, you know, between here and the continent. So there's a lot to overcome when it comes to this. Yeah.
I know that each one have been doing a festival, Afrolution festival. How has that been welcomed by the German public?
Yeah, that has worked well for the last 2 years, and it was great. We had people from the United States. We had people from Canada, all over the African continent coming. You were there yourself.
Yes.
No, it was pretty amazing. I mean, you have to understand, we do this in a very tiny space. If you think about literature festivals, you know, it's still a pretty big venue for a library, but to put, let's say 125 people into this space, I mean, you are cramped. You know, you are sitting on top of each other, and you have Nnedi Okorafor right in front of you. You know, a touching distance right in front of you. Do you just want to go like, ah? I think I've done that. I think I shouldn't have done that.
No, that's fine. I hope no one did that to Nnedi Okorafor. It may not be.
He's a good sport now. Yeah, that was really fun. That was really fun, and it was it really came out of this mindset of sort of like creating this out of the African diasporic community here, and sort of creating it for them as well. So I mean, from the standpoint of making it fair, like, yeah, no, it was a for us by us kind of concept. I really enjoyed that.
Each one teach one. Fubu.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just jump in here. There's somebody, Lucas is really commenting. He asks, you know, writers feel great when they see their books published. It's never about money. Publishing ideas here. How will you ensure original beauty is not lost in translation? It's a translation question. Ondjaki, you're the one who's doing the translation project.
Well, you know, I usually say if you are having something translated, no matter what your religion is, it's good to pray. You have to pray, because, you know, you have to pray for the translator to be good. You have to pray that, you know, he's in the good mood to do a great job. And sometimes the translation is better than the original. Not the whole thing, but parts of it. So, you know, you have to pray. either, it's a good book and the translator is good, and, of course, something will be lost and something will be added. I think translation it's a magical rewriting of a book. I really thank a lot the translators, not for my books, but the whole books. It's a very beautiful occupation, and I really think they should earn more. They are very, very badly paid, at least in Portugal, in Angola, and in Brazil that I know of. I think they are specialists. I think they should earn as much as a brain surgeon, the guy who does that. For me, it's as hard and beautiful as doing a surgical procedure. It is a procedure between two worlds,
yes.
between two cultures, no? So yeah, things get lost in translation. It's okay. It's part of the process. It's okay.
So we're about to start wrapping up, huh? So I want you to think about your closing statement, but we're not doing that now. Just think about it.
So is that an African thing or an European thing? The
I'm not sure, man. I mean, I'm somewhere in the middle there.
I'm joking, James. I'm joking.
Yes, I'm actually quite confused. Anyway, Philipp, tell me. You said there's been a slight shift in the last couple of years. Do you mind giving me, if it's possible, can you give me the names of the publishers who will publish my weird nerdy Okorafor? Is it a possibility? And you said it's slightly shift.
Wouldn't it be unfair to the other ones? Like if I say like Hollander Frauenverlag, Unrast Verlag, Edition Assemblage, wouldn't the others then say, but Dick, why didn't he name us? Because we're also doing that stuff?
But if they aren't doing it, why would they be worried? I mean, they should be doing more work. They should be doing more.
That is true.
I mean, yes. So, I mean, like, how is it going? Are there any...
I could possibly also mention publishing houses like, let's say, Afrika Wunderhorn, and Peter Hammer Verlag. I could possibly mention them, but would I do that knowing that they both basically like focus on the on just bringing like African stories, like very much African stories into the German context? Wouldn't I rather want to support something that were to facilitate like, stories from here by regular people here who talk about the everyday life, who just happen to be African and Black in Germany and do not care about their airport or salad forks, I don't know. I have opinions on that. I have opinions. So, James, I rather do not. I do not name.
Okay, no names. I mean, but are there opportunities? For instance, if I want to publish are there any journals I can check out in for Afro-German writing? Because those help when you're trying to get new writers.
Oh, yeah, that's true. No, the only one that I know that is active online is what's it called? Afrique Livresque. Oh, Afrolivresque. That's Afrolivresque.de. That is an online that focuses on African German and also predominantly Francophonic literature. Afrolivresque, yes. Asel Nadal, she does a great job there. Everything else happens in between the cracks, and you have to be fine-tuned to the cracks at times.
I have to tell you, man, I'm really, really disappointed. I had this picture of the Afro-Black Germany that clearly doesn't exist.
Oh no, there's stuff going on. There's stuff going on. It's just not. It's not
the way. It's not in the very formal, easy way to.
I mean, we are creating literature festivals out of nowhere. We are creating writing competitions out of nowhere. Like 2 years ago, we had the first Afrofuturistic short story youth writing competition. Now that was something. That's amazing. We have the people for it. It is just, can we take the potential that we have there and bring it into the mainstream, where the publishing potential is there, pretty much where all the green is. And also, do we need to really? Because so much when you think about literature, so much is on a grassroots level that just happens. It just happens. It happens online. It happens on street corners. It happens at slam poetry, spoken word festivals. Sometimes I'm wondering if it really needs like the the big publishing houses and the big book fairs for all of that. I don't know. So far, I see so much life. I see so much. It's bubbling up when I write to work, and when I go to the different shows.
You see it.
I wonder if it's needed. I'm not entirely certain. Yeah, of course, the money is there. The money is there, but that's not the reason why people start writing. And this is pretty general. Money has never been the reason why people start writing.
No. Ondjaki, I think what we're going to do now is we're just going to have you. First of all, how is the future looking in the space you're in? In Angola, in Luanda,
The future
of the literature, the publishing space, and the future for your organization.
Well, again, I have many ideas. I'm not quite worried yet about my organization. I am worried about the rest, it's now that I'm trying and doing and starting to print books in here, I get to see the price of the paper, the price of the way they tax the paper, and it's it's not the correct way to promote literature. If you also, I mean, if they tax the paper, when I print the book and the guy from the printer charges me that and that, when I sell the book, there is no other way. I have to put it, in a not very nice price. But I am outside of me. I'm very optimistic, not inside. So I always talk about the outside, not the inside. So it's gonna be, the next 5 years are going to be important. There are other things happening other than the books. We had 2 international movies, beautiful. One is documentary, another one is fiction. Fiction is called Independence. The other one is called Beyond My Steps. It's about dance. It's a documentary about dance, Angolan dance. And they have been getting prizes in international festivals. I mean, it's very common for other places, but it's not common for us to have a feature movie, fiction, Angolan, totally Angolan, winning prizes in Holland, in United States, in Austria. So it's I think that will make us, the other areas, music, books, and all, believe and work more towards that international direction. But again, I think there are many things to do internationally within the continent, and we keep forgetting that, or we keep being stopped of doing that. Let's see what happens.
So, gentlemen, shall we wrap it up with your final comments? I'm interested, Philipp, in what are your final comments, and how was this experience that you've just gone through in the last 1 hour? How can we make it better?
Is this sort of like a meta level conversation of like, what are we currently doing? You're here and I'm there, and like Ondjaki is here, and really?
Yeah. I mean, I want to know how the feeling.
It's awesome. Like, seriously, I like that. How can we? I would say put a performance in there. Like put some music in there. Put a guy with a saxophone. Like put what's her name? Christine. Put a lady with a saxophone right there in the middle.
Nairobi.
Like, give it like a 30-minute, like a 5-minute break after the first half an hour, and so we can all chill out and bring your daughter the toilet paper that she did.
and Ondjaki, what do you think I should do to improve this?
I'll just read a 4 sentences poem by Manuel Rui, which is an Angolan poet, and you just get some Portuguese, and that's it. But if Philip wants to do something, I can do the beat, and if he wants to do something.
I don't work so well on other people's beats,
Maybe
but
he doesn't need the beat.
Let's do this. Okay, you start then.
I'll start with the poem, and then I'll just do something, and you go on. Okay?
All right. Okay, but I will read it in this case because I'm not a freestyling champion here.
You can do whatever you want according to James.
I know we can.
Repara, meu amor, desta manhã, que foi o nosso amor por este dia que nos descobriu amando os nossos corpos como esta manhã. I wouldn't be able to translate it. It's a beautiful tiny poem about love, but it's very hard to translate. You can goodbye, and you can start with your poem, and I'll just I don't play the sax, but I'll do something here.
Philip, you want to try? Give it a try.
This poem is from the future, but since you've been good, you get it early. This poem will not tell you about great investments or affordable fusion energy. This poem got sent back in time to kill Hitler. This poem tells nothing about racism because in the future, poets of color write about their loved ones' earlobes, ending with life, death, health, and healing. And grandkids who rap about love. In the future, we rap about love over beats made from laptops against walls, rhythmically in sync with the tapping of words. In the future, we just love to know. This poem is known by all future activists. They recited in ciphers on roofs. They built from knowledge and experience with a sad clown smile. It goes, face. Robots poking down the boulevards of Kreuzberg. You will love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Ondjaki, I want to say thank you so much for giving me 1 hour and 7 minutes now. Philip, we can meet on the other side.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the live stream.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye, everybody out there.